It is 7:01. I will call the May 5th meeting of the Finance Committee to order. Present, we have Paul, Gavin, Bonnie, Paula, Trace, Zach, Kevin, Brandon, and myself. And I don't think anyone's on staff. I don't have Zoom on right now, so.
It's like we're trying hard. Nobody media center review.
All right, we all set, Mike? Get started.
All set. Ready?
Yep, go ahead.
So I just wanted to go over a couple things that came up at the last meeting. There was a member of the school committee here, and he was saying, do we have direction from the select board? Well, I did have direction from the select board, and that was 3% general government, 3% town. So obviously that has gone by the wayside, so that was the direction of the select board. And also there was a question about Chapter 78 goes up. Why doesn't that go right to the school budget? And I did mention you have to look at the expense side too. And when you take the increase in Chapter 78 and then deduct from that the increase in out-of-district tuitions and charter school tuitions, the net is like $56,000. With the increase in health insurance this year, the teachers, the school department is like $500,000 worth of that. So to say, well, they should get that $56,000, there's a lot of other expenses to be covered. That's why Chapter 78 is a general government revenue source. If we can, we'd start with the special town meeting. And on the special town meeting, under Article 3, Operation Budget Supplements. So we sent you a new sheet earlier today because James came forward with that there's interest short-term loan on the window project, $3,812. Snow removal, $103,723. And the Finance Committee recording secretary, $1,400. So those funds, I'm recommending $108,935 from free cash. And then below that, two other items. I'm recommending that $70,000 come out, be transferred from the unemployment account to the reserve fund. And also from unemployment, $20,000 to the Medicare expense account. Now with the $70,000, we may not need that. We have $36,000 left in the reserve fund, but after town meeting, there's still almost 2 months left in the year, just in case an emergency happens. One way or the other, it's going into free cash if it's not used. So just some security for us.
Questions on the operating budget supplements? So Mike, just a clarification, we have the 100,000 we originally knocked it down to, or I forget what it was originally in the spring, we added to it in the fall. And then to add to it again, and that's coming from the account, is that the unemployment account?
It is. Yeah, right now there's, in the reserve fund, I can tell you the exact amount. There's $37,600 and you've used $112,400.
Any other questions? Are there specific line items, Mike, that you're looking at that you think might go over? I mean, we have up to March, 75% of the year. Are there certain specific line items that you're thinking are getting too close to that you might need to supplement later?
Not right now. I think we hopefully are fine with the Medicare expense. But I just don't know, police and fire could have an emergency, I don't know. No, this is coming from unemployment going into the reserve fund.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
quick question. The recording secretary for Finance Committee, 1,400, that wasn't budgeted?
I think a small amount was budgeted, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
Usually like $2,000.
given she had so much to catch up on.
Oh, okay.
Right. She had meetings from lunch.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Need them all broken down, right?
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
make a motion that we transfer $1,400 from free cash to the Finance Committee budget, and from free cash to the snow removal, $103,723, for a total of $105,123 from free cash to those two items.
The one in the
You don't
packet, I
have
think, is the
the
old
sheet.
one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, not wrong, what else do we have here? And also $3,812 from free cash from interest on a short-term loan window project, for a total of $108,935. Is that going to be one motion for that first half?
Do the
Do it all
whole
one?
thing.
Okay.
Second?
Oh, do you want to do the whole thing first?
So also transferring from account number 001-911-570-5172 to 001-910-570-5173, $70,000 for the reserve fund, and $20,000 to the Medicare expense, for a total of $90,000.
Second.
All right, I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, it's unanimous. It's unanimous.
On Article 2, separation expense, I recommend no action. That was special.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Paul?
make a motion that we take no action on Article 2 of the special.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous.
And all you have left is the budget.
Yeah, that wraps up the special, right? All right. All right, so in terms of the budget, I thought we could, I feel like last week was kind of a whirlwind with lots of numbers being thrown around. So for myself, I did this spreadsheet and I just figured I'd pass it around to anybody who wanted it. I also included on there numbers for, Paul had asked up to March 31st, I think is the most recent. So it's 75% year-to-date is what, would be the anticipated at that point. So you can kind of see where we're at in terms of all those, and also see where we're at overall. By the end of all of this, we did, to Mike's point, we kind of blew that 3% out of the water. Town is now looking at, well, if FinCom approves all of the rest, so I highlighted, and you can't see it's in yellow, and this is the FinCom vote, anything we haven't voted for, and I just put in there right now, if we were to vote based on the town manager's recommendations, where we would be at. So we would be at about 5% for the general government, 4.4% for the Norton Public Schools, and then the rest, I don't think we played around with too much to begin with, so a total of 4.82% overall. I do think, though, that the idea of a 3% budget, and we keep talking about last year being a 1% budget, but it really wasn't, right? By the time the fall supplements came in, we ended up, our total increase last year from FY24 expended was 7.35%. The year before, from FY23 to FY24, was 8.69%. So 3% has never really been anywhere close to what we've had for, for our increases each year. Personally, the biggest issue I have with what we voted on last week was the reserve fund money. Because I know the stabilization money, sorry. Because I know we talked about this initially when Mike proposed it. A lot of us were opposed at that time and concerned at that time. It does affect the bond rating. So I think that's for me the biggest concern that I have right now. And if we haven't voted on a couple of the budgets, two of the budgets that have an increase. Personally, I could be persuaded in a new position that was a replacement, but to add a brand new position into this, again, that concerns me because we're really, this is not, what we did was not some magic act, right? It was just a stopgap. So, sitting on all this and looking at all these numbers, I definitely have some concerns. Again, about long-term and how feasible this is. The one question, Mike, I had for you is, and this is why I passed this out, I'd asked you for the local receipts numbers over the years. So actual FY23 was 14 million. I'm sorry, I'm going to go without water because I don't count that. The 7 million for the actual FY23, 8.5 million, 24. And then we've been budgeting much less the last couple of years. It was increased this year to 5 million, but I guess my question would be, is I would rather see that number. I appreciate that we're trying to be conservative, we don't know what's gonna happen. To me though, the trend has been much higher, and I would rather be a little less conservative. If something goes wrong and we have to do the stabilization then, that would be the time, rather than now, right? So if, we keep talking about tariffs and all the other things that are going on, and then we don't know what's gonna happen with excise taxes, but if that happens, that to me is what your stabilization money is for, rather than now trying to borrow against it. So I guess even at the risk of having our free cash next year being less, I would rather see the increases coming from the local receipts. So I'm wondering if there's any way we can bring that number up at all. I'm like, what is going on?
Sorry.
I'm not actually, some of it, so I think I'm
Okay.
destroying it.
Okay,
Other
so
than that, we're gonna say.
Bill is on.
Bill is on, all
By
right.
the way.
Welcome, Bill.
We heard him.
We'll vote on that first.
I don't think he was on yet,
Bill's on.
so.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I ask what the balance is of stabilization right now?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
the balance is 4,735,111, and that's before the 500,000 potential transfer.
So even if we leave it as is and we take 500,000, we get $4.2 million. That's above the 5% mark. That won't affect the bond rating one iota.
That's not what's affected the bond rate. To take stabilization money and use it towards your budget is what has a negative impact, or can have a negative impact. It's one of the questions they ask when you're filling out, whatever they fill out.
Is that,
Yes.
okay. I mean, last fall, we all sat here in a joint meeting, and the recommendation from the town manager was $1 million of stabilization. And I said, let's make it 1.5 million. And I think it was a unanimous vote to do so. For me, the reason for putting it in stabilization was, you said, well, I'm just leaving free cash, you could have just used it, so, because when you leave it free cash, it's like chumming the waters, everybody sees it, and everybody's after it. And for me, I would rather go into stabilization every year and refund stabilization in the fall, because, spoiler alert, if we have free cash in the fall, I will make a motion to put more in, because I think it's harder to get to. It keeps everybody from, chumming the waters, and that's my thought around it. And even if we didn't replace this 500,000, for some reason, that all these projections were wrong, we're still not in a disaster situation. So, I think we're getting into semantics at this point, but just my view.
Sorry, Mike, can I just get your input on what you think about the local receipts?
We increased, I think 500,000, did we go up? We increased the local receipts by 500,000. And when we look at the local receipts, we look at each category over the last 3 to 5 years and see what the average is.
Do the speakers on.
And so we have to justify our increases with the Division of Local Services when they come out. And I really don't think that we can go any higher. We're in a stage right now, we don't know what's going to happen with the auto industry. So a big driver of that is auto excise. And we don't know what's going to be out there for cars with the tariffs. So it's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the local receipts.
Yeah, I'm even seeing in licenses and permits that number is lower than what it's been the last couple of years. That estimate.
Yeah, we've been fortunate, we've had, the last few years, we had the Blue Star Park, which drove that quite a bit. And then we had the apartments on Mansfield Ave, another big project that drove that. Right now, I don't see a lot of big projects. We have a lot of individual homes, but other than possibly in the center of town, next where the old bank was, a project going in there, I don't see a lot of large projects that are going to drive things.
Madam Chair,
Yes, James.
so local receipts is the only place where we can, budget for free cash pretty much. So we budget low amounts for the estimated revenues. Any excess revenue that we collect over the estimate becomes free cash. That's the only safe place to have it. Because if you have it on a departmental budget, it could get spent. It probably will be spent. As far as the 500,000 being used out of the stabilization fund, the problem is that now becomes part of the budget. The base budget will be 500,000 higher. So when we go into 2027, if we don't take 500,000 plus whatever the percentage of the increase for next year will be, let's call it 508,000. If we don't take that amount out of the stabilization fund, we would have to cut budgets 508,000 as a starting point. If you look at the revenue and expenditure sheets, what it shows last year we used a total of $1.992 million out of free cash into the operating budget. That includes the October town meeting, that's for the whole year, that's how much we used. For 2026, we're using 1.817 plus 500,000 from the stabilization. We're already using, if we go through with this, over $2.3 million. Where is that money going to come from next year if free cash is only, let's say it's only $3 million? we're gonna put 500,000 back into the stabilization, so we're at 2.5. We have to set money aside for snow and ice deficits. There's quite a few projects that are not, approved yet, but we have the highway roof. The fire station roof is gonna be bonded out. The principal and interest for those projects will be funded out of free cash at the October town meeting. This is not the final, the May town meeting budget won't be the final budget. There are some pending items that, that's why we have the October town meeting, is to clean up the budget and make the final appropriations needed to finalize the budget. And, I know it's gonna be at least 30,000 in principal and interest for the fire station roof. The highway department, I believe, is 600,000 for the project. Depending on when we go out to borrow the funds, there may be some interest that we're gonna have to account for. That's not part of the current budget. So, it is a dangerous game. I'm not saying we cannot do it, but don't be surprised if, next year we're gonna have to cut the budget significantly. So instead of a 3% budget, we may be looking at a 1% budget or a 0 or maybe negative, depending on where everything falls. Because I don't anticipate free cash will be $6 million like it was last year.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So I think it was 2 years ago, I'm sorry, years kind of blend together now, being on FinCom for so long. I think we did the same thing where we borrowed from, Zach would probably remember, we borrowed from stabilization for the schools to give them their level service budget, and we did the same thing. We put the money back in the fall and also asked them to not request any supplemental money. And I think that was 2 years ago, and then last year, obviously, we saw what happened with the school budget and 26, 29 layoffs. So James, I guess to your point, yeah, we could be in this pattern now where we're borrowing, and then next year she may have to lay off 30 people, and then, and then here we go, circle around and around. But at the same time, it doesn't feel good to have to lay off employees from the town, from schools or anywhere. But if we don't take the money from stabilization, where else could we take it from? There's, I guess, nowhere, I don't know.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
I think, James, the difference this year, I think, at least to date, which hasn't happened every fall that I've been here, and I think it's been 5 or 6 years now, we've made we've subsidized budgets to the police station, the fire station, the schools, everything else. Right now, by using the stabilization money, and I know you're opposed to it, other than what you said, the roofs and some other things, there really shouldn't be any departments. The schools shouldn't be coming back with anything. There should be nothing. I mean, it should be, even if we have $3 million, and I'm just throwing that number out there, $3 million in free cash, let's just assume we put 500 back in stabilization, we fund the capital budget, 500,000, and then you have another couple $100,000 in miscellaneous stuff. You're still rolling, a couple $1 million into next year in free cash. So, I know it's not good, but we can only deal with what's in front of us. This is what's in front of us right now. Do I have a crystal ball and know next year what the revenue's gonna be? No, and I hate to say this, but it is the truth. We have this mentality, and it's not only here, it's municipal government, that we bring a person on, let's say we hire the person for the senior center. We own it forever. That means we own forever. That's not the case. I've run businesses since I was 25 years old. I've hired and fired, and not laid off, thousands of people. Revenue changes. You gain an account, you lose an account, no different. If you don't have the revenue, you don't have the revenue. You gotta make adjustments. I don't see that as a big deal. It happens every day, everywhere. This notion that we bring on somebody and we own them forever is only a municipal government thing, because that does not exist anywhere else in society.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I don't think we own anyone, but if we add a position to, for example, who is requesting it, the COA, we do not next year want to have to cut that position. It's not necessarily, I mean, there's a real person, obviously, and that person is going to mean something to the seniors and to the people who come in to the community center. But we do want to own the position, or at least have consistency among our departments. We don't want to say to the highway department, well, you can clean the cemeteries this year with your extra person, or this not extra, but an additional person that's been needed for the department. But next year, we're not going to have enough for, to fund that position. So we're just going to cut that back and maybe cut some other areas because we don't have the consistent recurring funding to be able to fund our departments. So I don't think it's about individual people, other than what the services are that are provided to the town that people come to expect. And if they're going to the senior center and they're really happy with this one position for 1 year, they're of course going to come back, and they're all going to be sitting here when there's any talk of cutting that position, because now there isn't any money anymore. And of course they should, because they've come to expect that, and they wanted that. They came here and lobbied for that last week and the week before. So, you know, when the schools were having 26 positions cut, parents filled this room because they were upset about that. I mean, that's what happens. It's not about owning it. It's about the consistency of what our positions are for this town in any specific department. I mean, certainly, the smaller the department, the bigger one person makes a difference, because, you know, there's only 6 people, let's say, that work for highway. Cutting one person is, you know, 15, 20% of their workforce. So, I mean, that's how I see it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you're not wrong, but again, you're depriving them of that position for the whole year. If you have the money, you can do it this year. If you can't do it next year, you can't do it next year. I mean, we have inconsistent revenue. Last year we had $6 million in free cash. This year, maybe $2 million. I have no idea. I mean, if that's the case, then go 3% across the board and build up a massive pile of cash. I mean, I don't know what the revenue is going to be next year, other than the 2.5% that we get from you know, the Prop 2.5 real estate taxes. I have no idea how many cars are going to be bought. I have no idea if we're going to go into depression. You know, nobody knows this. We can deal with what's in front of us. This is what's in front of us today. If next year we don't have the revenue, we make those adjustments next year. That goes on every day. I guess I'm not from this world of you know, you make adjustments as you go. I'm in business. I have 100 employees. It's my money that writes that, you know, 6-figure payroll every week. If I don't have the money, unfortunately, I have to let somebody go. Do I like it? Absolutely not. But it's the facts of life. And if I couldn't deal with that, then I shouldn't be in that position. But that's, you know, my thought on it anyway.
So Zach, I don't think for me it's about necessarily, I mean, oh. Is that Bill?
That's Bill.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Can I just kind of second what Zach was saying? You know, if we have the money today, we should try to, you know, we should try to do what we can today. And if next year we're falling off the cliff, then, you know, that may get people's attention that we're not really getting at the moment. And maybe it gets the greater body of voting people and get their attention that, you know, we're on a path that we can't sustain, and eventually, you know, eventually something new has to happen. So if we can do it this year, great. Next year, that's a whole new ping pong season to worry about.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I respectfully disagree with Bill and Zach. The town voted no on the override. They came out in force. I don't understand we're in an unsustainable path, and if we have a way to try to fix it now, let's try to do it now. We keep kicking the can down the road. I know departments want to hire people. I've been vocal, being against any new hires. We just need to start now. And if residents lose services, they voted no on the override, right? And I think now's the time to start to get people's attention.
So can I just respond to something that both Zach and Bill said about if we have the money? I would argue we don't have the money, right? We're taking out a loan right now, right? We're dipping into the stabilization, we're dipping into the free cash. I mean, we could dip into more stabilization if we wanted to and say we have that money. Where does that end? So for me, dipping into those things, like less of an issue to dip into them for level services. Again, there's a stopgap for one more year, and I mean, kick the can down the road for one more year. I mean, I know it's not a solution, but at least we get level services, and then maybe I don't think the vote will ever change in this town. So I don't think that'll be the solution, but maybe there's no solution. I don't know. But either way, I would advocate for level services this year. And using whatever we can to get level services. I wouldn't advocate for using all of these different, this little shell game that we have going on for anything new.
Madam Chair.
Zach, you made a comment about the 2.5% increase that's across the board. And I don't know if James can explain a little bit more about, it's not a 2.5% of the overall budget, it's 2.5% of the assessed value. So it's.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if you look at the revenue and expenditure sheet on the top where it says $48 million base tax levy, the increment, that's the 2.5%, the 1.2 million. That 1.2 million is the total 2.5% that we get. We don't get 2.5% on our close to $80 million budget. The rest of the revenue has to come from local receipts, which were increased by $500,000, which is more than 10%. State aid, which doesn't go up much fortunately. And then fund transfers, which is the free cash, stabilization, the ambulance account, which the ambulance account I think is also being overutilized. And once you take those fund transfers and make them part of the budget, they're there to stay forever. The day they're not available, you have to cut the budget by that amount. So if, for instance, if we say from now on we're not going to use the ambulance account anymore, we would have to cut the budget 1.2 million. If we were to take the 500,000 from the stabilization fund, then the 500,000 would go away from the budget and so on. You also have to keep in mind every time the budget goes up 5-6%, interest compounds. So next year the base budget is much higher. So even if you do 3% next year of the higher amount, rather than 3% of the lower budget, you're growing the budget exponentially. I mean, I know it sounds like it's going up a lot and it's beneficial. I would love it. It would benefit. It would make my life easier. But it's not sustainable. That's the problem. We're only getting 2.5% on the base budget. And if we're lucky, we get a high new growth amount. And those are the only two items that are operating recurring revenue as part of the budget. Everything else is pretty much one-time funds.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Zach.
So I've been in town here, I think, over 30 years now. And for 30 years, I've heard the same tune. It's not sustainable. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep doing this. We're gonna go broke. We're gonna do this. 30 years. 30 years. Go back to minutes from 30 years ago. We've heard the same tune, yet we're still here. The lights are still on. We still have good schools. We have a great fire department. We have a great police department. So, you know what? Contrary to the doom and gloom I hear continuously for 30 years, we're making it work. We're making it work year to year. Yeah, it may not be everything we all want, but we're making it work. And it's not, it's not going to crash and burn next year. Or all these scenarios that I've heard for the last 30 years. This is what you got this year. This is what you can spend. Next year, you deal with next year. That's it. 30 years from now, it'll be the same thing. We'll all be dead and we'll be saying the same story. Surrounding communities that have passed override after override after override are doing the same thing. 100 teachers gone at Bridgewater Raynham over the weekend. And I keep, hearing override and override, but somebody needs to tell me how that, this is not a political organization, but it keeps getting brought up. Tell me how override's gonna fix the problem. You bring in an extra $2 million, you hire all these people, their net increase, health insurance, everything else is 6, 7, 8%. The next year you're in the same boat. Override isn't gonna work if you don't hire anybody else. Do the override and say, okay, we're gonna freeze the budget and we're gonna get a few years. You wanna pass an override and hire 20 people, 1 year later, you're gonna have the same problem. Similar to what you see in every community. Just look around. Look around, all the surrounding communities. They're looking for more money after they've passed overrides, after they brought in businesses, built industrial parks, on and on it goes. Just the same old broken record. This is what you got, this is what you can spend. Can you fully fund the school level service this year? You can do it. Can't do it next year? You can't do it. The people have voted. Why don't you keep bringing it up?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So to disagree with you, Zach, I don't really hear anybody saying we shouldn't use stabilization to fund the schools. I hear people saying we should use stabilization to stabilize, not to expand, not to add new positions, which could rob next year. Next year we could be, as the town accountant has told us, in a much worse spot if we overspend this year. And to use your words against you last fall, when you were talking about stabilization, you said, hey, do I keep 5% and consider that good? No, that's not enough, right? So I think we need a whole lot more than 5% to be stable and safe and have a good savings, right? So why would we cut into it? Why is it being above 5% okay?
I agree. I'm the one who proposed to put 1.5 million. And in the fall, as I said, if there's more money than that we anticipate, I'm going to be the first one standing here and saying, let's put $1 million to stabilization. I'm the one that's going to make that motion. Right? But right now, this is where we are. If I hadn't made that motion, that $500,000 would have been in free cash. And that would have been okay. Everybody in this panel would be, great, we have it in free cash, we'll spend it. But just because I moved it to stabilization, now the sky's falling and we're going bankrupt.
Hey, Zach, can we go through the chair and I'll give this.
Yes, I'm sorry, I asked you direct questions.
I know you're getting excited about this topic.
I guess I would point out 30 years ago, the sky's been falling for 30 years. 30 years ago, we probably had art class. We probably had a lot of things that the town no longer has. So I don't think that's saying, I used some hyperbole a few weeks back that talked about the town dissolving. That's obviously not what I meant. I meant the slow erosion that we're seeing. And that's what I would like to stop. And I think this whiplash, spending every penny and then you're robbing from next year, and then next year we're laying people off and back and forth is not, it's not good for the town, it's not good for the people that rely on the town services. I see your point. I've said it before, hey, 6 months with a paraprofessional in the schools, maybe that intervention changes a kid's life. And then that person gets laid off, but that kid's life is still changed. So maybe I can see that point. But from a financial responsibility standpoint, I don't agree. I think we need to be a little bit more prudent here, and adding positions is not prudent.
Any other general thoughts before we start taking some votes?
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just
Bob.
real quick. I forget who said, I don't know if it was James, mentioned that, borrowing from stabilization for the operating budget could have, bad effects on our bond rating or whatever. Did that happen last time? Did you notice when we had borrowed, I think it was 2 years ago, from the stabilization for our operating budget? Did you notice anything negative happen then?
Madam Chair, I don't believe we were out in the bond market when that happened, so it did not affect us at that time. But we are going out to bond next month,
Okay.
and they're going to be asking questions about the fiscal year 26 budget. And while I'm talking, I just want to add something else. The sky has probably been falling for 30 years, like you said. We did have negative free cash probably 22 years ago. And then the finance committee at the time implemented policies to try to avoid that happening ever again. cuts have been made every year, as you all know. The school department, every department has suffered throughout the years. Why are we still here? Because we've made financial sound decisions that have prevented us from having to go bankrupt. We're not in the business of going in a deficit. You know, we want to maintain, it's better to have a slight increase in the budget and keep a positive cash flow going in than say, oh, let's worry about it next year. If you start worrying about what may happen next year, knowing that you're overutilizing your reserves, you are going to set yourself up to be in that position next year where the cuts are going to have to be way bigger. That's just my opinion. You know, it's not. You guys are free, obviously, to do whatever you think is appropriate.
Thanks, James. Any other questions, comments?
Just, if I could just
Sure.
mention, when we get to the highway budget, the select board brought up a couple things at their meeting, and they had a Hicks Fund meeting also, and they increased the amount of the Hicks Fund to the budget to 80,000, so that the highway department could add one of the two positions. And they also request that we use 10,000 from free cash on repairs of private ways because of an issue they're having on a roadway in town. So that'll come up when we get to the highway budget.
Okay. Anyone have questions on that? Mike, is the Hicks Fund, we heard how this is all sort of this gray area we're in right now, but if we do use Hicks Fund money, should that go to highways since that cemetery is part of highway? Is that the idea?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's for the cemeteries.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
quick question. I don't think we agreed to that additional position yet for the highway
We have
department,
not
so
voted on that one yet.
if we don't agree to it, I mean, is there an issue with the Hicks Fund money?
It would just remain unspent.
Okay.
Mike, did you get the sense that they will continue to fund that position with Hicks money? Would they will increase that going forward, or is this just a one-time thing?
We did tell them that, so hopefully they're confident in their interests that they'll earn.
Any other questions on that? Mike, I think there were a couple other changes that you made to your recommendations. Can you just go through those? I read them already, but I can't find them. The EMS,
Oh, that
you
was,
went back up to the request.
that was what I thought was your vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our vote, but I noticed you changed your recommendation as well. And we didn't do that for everything, so I just. But you didn't, because you didn't change the recommendation on the fire or
No.
emergency plan, just the EMS. So is there something about EMS that you felt that was just,
Just a
okay? And that was the one, actually, the budget that I had a question on too. Right now, year to date, we're about 58%, and we did add to that in the fall. I don't remember why we added it to the fall, in the fall, and why it's a little bit lower right now. It seems like we're gonna have extra money there. Was there a reason we added money there in the fall?
into the EMS.
EMS, yeah, that was one of the budget
know.
supplements.
I know it had been cut in May, and we're just putting it back to where the cut was.
Okay. So if they are if they're lower right now, then do we think that there's a need next year? Why are they lower right now?
I would tell you, Sandy, I think he's being conservative. in case you can turn back instead of just spending it and stocking up on the supplies. I know that Chief Simmons is working in a conservative nature more so than I probably did.
Okay, so there's not some big thing he's gonna be spending that money on in the next 12 months? Okay. Any other questions? Do we want to start going through the different budgets? So I think select board is first.
Okay. Select board, there's, under personnel services, $80,120, and under charges and expenditures, $2,700, for a total budget of $82,820.
Anyone have questions on that?
Are we moving them individually, but at the end of the page? There's no changes.
So it's kind of weird because we did some of them on the first page already. We could do several at a time if you wanted to. Several on that, but the rest of them on that page. Sure.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend the total for select board, account number 122 at $82,820.
Motion, by a second.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Bill?
Yes.
Next is town manager personnel services, $335,984, and charges and expenditures, $21,000, for a total of $356,984.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mike, unfortunately, I'm going to ask you to repeat yourself from last week because I wanted to rewatch the video to understand a little bit more of what you were trying to explain to me, and unfortunately couldn't because of certain events.
What happened?
I don't know. So,
Pull as a screenshot.
so you mentioned on the assistant town manager some additional payments being agreed to. Can you explain that to me again?
Sure. So, let me share my screen again. So, back in April of 2024, we received a salary survey from a company that we hired, and in their salary survey, they had a proposed salary range of $95,500, $133,700 was the range for that position. And then we found that there were 4 positions that were below the 50th percentile in the salary ranges. And that was that town assistant to the town manager, the assistant treasurer collector, and then the inspections, the building commissioner, the human services COA director. Those were the positions that were under. And how we determined if the assistant to the town manager, just like we did with all those other positions, we received the range data from the company, and we didn't use the average, we used the 50th percentile in order to determine what the salary would be. In this case, the 50th percentile was $121,399, and the current pay was $108,150. So then, these were the adjustments. So the union positions, the building commissioner, the COA director, and the assistant treasurer collector, the union agreed to take those in 2 installments. So the total the building commissioner was under was $4,021. So one payment was voted, I'll show you later, at the October town meeting, and one would be this year. And then the town clerk, we took care of that with the hiring of the new town clerk within that range. And the one position that's not a union position, and the assistant to the town manager is not a union position. So we stretched that over 3 years, 3 payments.
Okay.
And then, so there's the agreement, it's 3 payments, $4,333.33 over 3 payments. And then, in October, operating budget supplements. These are the supplements that were approved at the fall town meeting. And you can see under the town manager, $4,333, which is that payment 1. Under the inspections department, $2,010.50, which is payment 1.
When you say payment, it's an increase, right? Not a one-time payment, okay.
Increase 1 of 2 for that, 1 of 3 for the assistant to the town manager. The Council on Aging received $3,945.50. Just as an example.
So the intention there is to get that position up to the 121, that was right, okay. So, this year, looking at 126, 127, really, as the updated salary, that's 6,000 more. So I think I understand where that was all coming from now, but it does seem like a large increase despite that. Is that because we're adding maybe like a normal cost of living percentage plus? So next year, we would anticipate, or was this 2 out of 3? So next year would be similar?
Yes.
How does that work with the salary band capping out at 133? A similar increase would be over that, right?
It would still be, yes. It still should be below that.
Right, well, 108 to 116 is $8,000. 116 to 126 is about $10,000. If we follow that from 126, you're at 136, which is above the salary cap.
Cap is 133.7.
Which is less than 136, which would be a commensurate increase next year. Like 126 leaves room for the 30 or 4,000 or so in that agreement, but not much more. And then at that point, this position will just hit that max and sit there until the town approves an increase.
Right, it would have to go to town meeting and change the wage and salary plan.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, there's, I think, 9 positions in town that are part of the wage and salary plan that have to go to town meeting. The ranges, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that budget?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I just want a clarification, Mike, if you could. When you got those comparables, were you only looking at assistant to the town manager positions, or were you also looking at assistant town manager positions? Because those are 2 different
Yeah,
positions.
I
'Cause
know.
I saw it was like ATM/assistant to town manager.
Yeah, we made it clear to them what we were looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, the position they say assistant two, but if you look at what the position has evolved into, it's really an assistant town manager position.
Comparing job descriptions.
With, I mean, yeah, I can give you this, but the essential functions are huge.
Mike, are there any managerial pieces to that role, to that position?
Anyone?
Managerial? Is there any management that of staff or anything else?
So the position does a lot, handling a lot of the, since we don't have an HR director, handling a lot of employee issues that come up. Does all the invitations for bids, handles all the drug screening. The standard stuff that you see all the time with the budget.
Anyone else have questions on that?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So Mike, will this person, if you were to get sick or whatever, take over your position as the assistant?
Could,
So, but as a town, did we vote to have an assistant town manager?
you have an assistant two.
Two, which is I would think, an assistant town manager could step in, just like like my assistant could step in,
Yeah.
versus my admin stepping in.
Well, I would say that I would look at the position under the select board's budget as more of an admin, and this position I would look at more as a managing position.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the amount of $356,984 for the town manager account 123.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes?
Paula?
No.
Trace?
No.
Zach?
You missed somebody.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's been moved. I'm sorry, I have my list here. I can't, it's hard to see now. I was going to, after. Brandon?
No.
Zach? Can we come back to you?
Yeah, you can come back to me.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes,
And Zach?
Abstain.
Oh, come on. Come on. Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, I just want to say, I know I brought this up repeatedly over the last few months, so you may be surprised, but I do feel after Mike's explanation, I didn't want to single anybody out, given, and I think the explanation, while I don't necessarily love it, it makes sense. So, just wanted to explain that to my fellow board members.
All right, I didn't get my vote. I mean yes. So I think that was 3 no's, right? All right, next we have, no, we voted on that one. Town accountant is next.
Next, we have the town accountant. Personnel services, $256,997. That's for 2 full-time people and 1 part-time person in that department. Purchase of services, $30,000, and charges and expenditures, $2,770. And the $30,000, is that all the audit, James?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for the audit.
Any questions on that budget?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the bottom line amount of $289,766 for the town accountant, account number 135.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes,
And I too am yes.
Next, we have assessors, personal services, $237,640. There's 3 full-time people in that department. And charges and expenditures, $153,635. And the big increase there is $110,000 that was part of an article previously, but moved into the budget this year.
Any questions on that one?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the amount of $391,275 to the assessors, account number 141.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
yes,
And I too am yes.
Next is treasurer collector's office. Under personal services, $317,708. And that is for 3 full-time people and the new part-time position. And then charges and expenditure is $50,565. And just a reminder that we eliminated a part-time position in the Board of Health so that we could fund this position.
Any questions on that budget? All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Paul.
I move the amount of $368,273 for the treasurer collector, account number 147.
All right, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
yes,
And I too am yes.
Data processing, we have 1 part-time position, $34,445, and charges and expenditures, $473,816.
Any questions on that budget?
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair.
Yeah, yes, Bill?
This is more of a procedural question. For purposes of just voting minutes, all that kind of happy stuff. Do we need to separate personnel services from charges and expenditures when we're making these motions, or just the bottom line?
You need to separate them.
we should tweak on one of each.
You should vote for, yep. Yeah. You could say that too. It was read by the town manager. Where are you at now?
Data processing. Yeah, 150.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move as by presented, the bottom line of $508,261 to data processing, account 155.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes,
And I too am a yes.
Under town clerk, 161, under personal services, 510, $169,502. This is for 2 full-time and 1 part-time person in the office. And under charges and expenditure, 570, $5,925, for a total of $175,427.
Any questions on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the bottom line amount is presented by Mike of $175,427 to the town clerk, account 161.
And motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes,
And I too, yes.
All right, under Department 171, Conservation, Personal Services, 510, $144,059. There are 2 full-time staff people in the Conservation Office, and charges and expenditure, 570, $11,000 for a total of $165,059.
Mike, can I ask a question about conservation? I was looking at James, your report, that from all the appropriations we've had for E3 that have gone unspent, I know when we talked to the conservation agent, he did not seem like that was a priority right now to work on E3 or to, rent it out or any of those kinds of things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a discussion for tonight, but just like for food for thought, that if I feel like we either need to spend that money or put it back, right? Because it's kind of just been sitting there. We have maybe 3 different appropriations, I think, for E3. So just a thought for the future.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
can I add to that?
yes.
Mike, can you politely ask the select board what their intention to do with that E3 property is? I mean, it is a diamond, but it's rough. I'll put it that way.
And wet.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair.
Yes, Bill?
Over the phone line here, it sounded like personal services was 144,000. I think
154,
it's supposed to be 154.
right. 154059.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Paul?
I move the bottom line amount is presented by Mike of $165,059 to the Conservation Commission, account 171.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes,
And I too, yes.
Under Planning Board 175, under Personal Services 510, $159,792. That's 2 full-time staff people. And under charges and expenditures, $3,375.
Any questions on that budget?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Paul?
I move the bottom line amount is presented by Mike, $163,167 to Planning Board, line account 175.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
yes,
And I too, yes.
Okay, next we have municipal building maintenance, $127,000.
Any questions on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you first. Joyce first.
I just want to know, Mike, what the department asked was 171,000, and your recommendation is 127,000. So what are we getting, or what is he not getting?
A few things. One, we're getting solar credits that will reduce the electricity. And the other thing was, some of the things that were in this budget before we've now moved to the fire department, for example, will handle their own electrical bills and gas bills where it used to come out of this budget.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, any other, Zach, do you have a question?
Yeah, what exactly, just to follow up on Tracy's question, what exactly is left? What is that covering, Mike? The money that's left, the 127,000, what is that covering?
That, I'll get to it. And hopefully we have less bills as far as maintenance with the new building, so. So it will cover electricity, propane, natural gas, which before we had a high amount because in that building, the heat was natural gas. But here we only have it from generator, that's it. It covers our water and sewer bill, repair maintenance of equipment, repair maintenance of buildings, trash and garbage removal, copy and duplicate expenses for the copy machines, and charges and expenditures for the cleaning company.
And that's for the senior center here, just
No.
just here?
Just here.
Just here.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Paul?
I move the amount of 127,000 is presented by Mike to the municipal building maintenance 192 budget.
You have a motion, have a second?
Second,
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill? Did I hear Steve, yes?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you, and I'm doing yes. Okay, next.
Okay, under highway, under personal services, $1,041,940. Under charges and expenditures, $168,250. Under surface treatment, $13,000, and repairs to private ways, $11,000. And as I said before, that was $1,000, and the select board has asked that we increase the free cash amount by $10,000 to add money into that. And the personal services, that's an added position at $71,389.
Mike, the 10,000 for the repairs, what's that gonna do? I imagine that's not gonna fix everything, right? Or-
No, it's not gonna, it's gonna take a bad situation and make it a little less bad, fill some of the more severe areas that need the potholes filled.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So this figure, Mike, that you just moved for personal services includes the additional filling of an open position, not a new position, correct?
I mean, it's the adding of
The open spot from That was a
last year, there was one position that was eliminated. This year, they were looking for two positions, that one plus another one. This would just fill one.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So, Mike, this personnel services recommendation does not include the extra $80,000 from the Hicks Fund?
It will. When we do our revenue sheet, we'll add that in.
But right now, it's just for one additional position?
That's the position that's being funded. With the added funds from the Hicks, we're able to do this.
Okay. And then just one more question about the repairs to private ways. Is that something that we could use capital for?
Eventually, if they were gonna do something major to that road, they'd have to go through capital and have capital's okay. We did go to capital, and they also agreed just to do this for now, while we look at what we legally can do and how much it's gonna cost.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Mike, to that point, on the $10,000, the reason we're putting it in the actual budget itself instead of an article, is it just too late for an article we need to address?
Right.
So we'll have notations for next year, what this is potentially a one-time expenditure that we put in the budget?
Yeah, it potentially is a one-time expense, or I know the select board did say, how come it's been 1,000 all these years and it's never gone up? So it might be something they look at in the future to increase it somewhat, more than 1,000. You know, you can't buy much pavement for $1,000, much dirt. Okay.
Any other questions on the highway budget?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the amount, bottom line amount is presented by Mike of $1,234,190 to the highway account 420.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
No.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I too am a yes.
You gotta get sponsored by Cyrus Hicks on the highway department.
All right. Next is Council on Aging 541, Personnel Services, $238,941, and this would include a new assistant position, $70,000 position. The difference was that was put in by the department as an $80,000 position. And then under charges and expenditures, $60,020. And the same thing here, the request was $103,720, and I think most of that was electricity, and our energy credits will take care of a lot of that.
Any questions on that budget?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to remind everyone, we've been talking about not getting in this position year after year, and you just voted to add a new position for the highway department, and now there's another new position being proposed, so just tossing that out there.
Thanks, Brandon. Anyone else?
Paul?
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the amount presented by Mike of $298,961 for the Council on Aging 541 account.
Right, can I just take a second first and then I'll do discussion? Yeah. So do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion. Paul, you have a question?
Sorry, I guess I just wanted to agree with Brandon. I don't think that this is the time to be adding positions. That didn't exist prior, especially, yeah, $70,000 full-time position. So I guess, I don't know if we have to make a motion to recommend a different amount here.
Do we want to see if this?
We can do
motion in a
further
second?
discussion, I guess, and then,
I think maybe we vote on this one and then
okay.
if it doesn't pass, we can figure out what to do from there. Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just point out, because I share Brennan's discomfort with adding positions. I think on the highway department, we got two differences. One is that it's a pre-existing position, which obviously it wasn't funded, so it is a new position financially, but we're kind of getting back to level services of years past is kind of one way I look at it as opposed to this one. The other thing is the bigger difference being the fixed account money, which as much as I have discomfort with using it, it has been approved at least for this year. It sounds like so. I see that as being a distinction here as far as adding positions.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, if I understand now the positions, but we really are in need here. The services that are provided in that building, not just for seniors, but for people in need, are really taxing on the small staff that we have right now. And as I said, when we were directed to do a 3% budget, when I did my budget of 3% for the town, there were a lot of cuts that were made around all departments so that we could fund this position. So it really was work to do that because of the need that was addressed by the COA director and the people that utilize the services.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I know I probably sound like a jerk here, but those type of cuts that you mentioned, Mike, should be done to help us improve the position we're in with our budget.
And they're also done in order to provide the services that people need, and this is a desperate need.
So personally, Mike, I don't disagree. I don't, anytime we can't increase something or we have to decrease something, it's a hardship, and I think that there's a lot of departments we could say the same thing for. So I don't think there's anything personal or anything, anybody voting against this, that's not necessarily saying this isn't a need. But for me personally, again, going to level services, already dipping into money for that to me is the priority to get the level services established, and then, if we can find a way somehow to generate revenue for next year, that would be, I'm not opposed to adding that in the future.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to add, to emphasize what you said, it is nothing personal, it's just numbers.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yes, Brandon, it is just numbers. And the numbers are call it $300,000 for argument's sake, of an $80+ million budget for 35% of the population in town. So I know a lot of us are caught up on percentages, they're on the right side of the column, but I don't know how anybody can look at this and say, we're treating the seniors fairly when we're giving them, 1/10 of 1% of the entire budget, and they're paying their taxes. They don't get any relief because they're seniors. So, if we're looking at it from a fairness standpoint, I don't think that, I think it's gross misjudgment to say that we're gonna take it out on these people that are getting, again, 1/10 of 1% of the budget. That's my opinion.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do want to add a debt exclusion was approved for the seniors, so, or part of it, for a brand new senior center to support them, so I don't want to say.
2021.
Sorry, Pete?
2021.
Thank you. So, tossing that out there too.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I don't want to go back and forth, but that wasn't the only one that was done under debt exclusion. This building, the fields. We built a new high school. We put new windows. We did a lot of things all over town. So to sit there and the seniors again are paying more than 30% of the population in this town, a third of the population, they're paying the taxes. And they got the debt exclusion as well on their tax bill. So I'll leave it at that.
Anyone else?
I guess I just want to also state that this is not personal coming from me either. I mean, I don't know where everyone else works here on this finance committee, but I work in human services. I work for a nonprofit agency. I understand the need out there for more staff. You know, we also fight for that every year at my agency, but we also have to live within our means and do what we can. And again, this really is about adding a new position to the budget at this time and not being comfortable with that.
Bill, did you have something?
Yeah, so, you know, let's go back a few years when this whole center was being proposed. And, you know, I recall asking, you know, getting a brand new center, you're not going to need any more new personnel? Nope, we got it under control. So, on that hand, I should be, you know, just saying, hey, you told us a couple of years ago you had it under control with the staff you had. But they do serve a need. They do serve a needy population. Just like, you know, teachers serve a needy population, young kids. Now we're serving older adults. And if the director of said center, and to Zach's point, a third of the population of this town is saying, hey, I need help, then, you know, money, budget, whatever. I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, I did what was needed. And, you know, if it's a one-year position, so be it. So for that 1 year, that person, this center, serves the population that they're there to serve, and maybe to help someone who otherwise would not have gotten the help they needed, and, you know, Lord knows what would happen. If it gets cut next year, so be it. But I think it's, numbers aside, to Zach's point, it's minuscule, a rounding error in this overall budget, and there's no reason why we can't say that. There really is.
Anyone else? Oh, did you make the motion in a second? Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot about that. Okay. So we'll do the vote. Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
No.
Bonnie?
No.
Paula?
No.
Trace?
No.
Brandon?
Can you skip me?
After all that. Zach, go ahead.
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Let me think about it. Yeah.
All right, back to you. Brandon?
I should pull a Zach and abstain.
Do whatever you want.
I abstain.
Did you abstain?
Yeah, I'll go with yes.
And I am a no, but that is 5 no, 6 yes.
Next, we have Veterans Aging, 543. Under Personal Services, 510, $109,581. That's for 1.5 people in that office. Charges and expenditure, 570, $3,700. Veterans benefits, 579, $120,000.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Mike, just a quick question. On the veterans benefits, that's a reimbursable amount. We get 75% back.
Correct.
And if we don't, I see we were cutting from 150 requested to 120, where the expenses for 23 and 24 were more than what we're recommending now. And with that 75% reimbursement, if we go over that amount, are we limited here saying we can only reimburse or provide benefits to veterans up to 120? If it goes over, we have to say no?
No, we'll have to cover it.
With this-
So I was just looking at, in 2024, we spent 124,000, and where we were at the time when we were preparing the budget, it looked like 120 would get us there. Obviously, we don't know. She doesn't know how many clients she's going to have come in during the year and what their needs are going to be. But under the law, she has to cover those needs. So if we ended up having to spend 150,000, we'd have to come back for a reserve fund transfer or amend that budget next May.
And does the veterans agent feel comfortable with 120,000 budgeted right now?
She probably wouldn't say that, but because she really doesn't know.
But my biggest thing, no matter what happens, we have to provide the benefits.
We
to
will
any
provide,
veteran.
we'll provide the services, yes.
And it's an automatic 75% reimbursement.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
to Steve's point, on your spreadsheet that you nicely did for us, they're at 85,000 spent as of March 31st, so they've got a ways to go to get to the 120 even, Steve, for this year.
Any other questions on the veterans?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move the amount as presented by Mike, the $233,281 to the Veterans Agent 543 account.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Paul?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Paula?
Yes.
Trace?
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I too am a yes. And I'm going to recuse myself on the next one.
All right.
So that's.
Go ahead, Chad. So if I can just mention, this budget, recreation 630, personnel services 510, 31,895, and charges and expenditures 21,590. I will say that 31,895 is based on 25 hours. If we were to increase that to 30 hours, it would be $38,274. And just to talk on that a little bit, James and I met with her today, with Melissa today, and under the state law, the recreation revolving account, it can only have $10,000 at the end of the fiscal year. And whatever's left gets turned back to the general fund. And right now, there's $50,000 in that account, and she's done such a good job. So, I mean, if that continues, which I don't see why it wouldn't with what she's doing year after year, it would almost fund this position, the extra 5 hours easily. So if you wanted to go to 30 hours, I think she would be willing to work that. It would be $38,274.
Madam Chair?
Actually, Paul.
Yes.
Who
Oh,
spoke up?
Mr.
Zach?
Chair,
Zach?
can you explain, Mike, what the 50,000 fees that she's collected?
From all the different activities that she's been running. And
And
rental.
shouldn't 100% of that go right back into the park and rec budget? Now, we're taking that and putting it in operational funds? I mean, I think I have a problem with that. She's working hard to try to fund her department, and now we're taking that back? I mean, it just seems, we're municipal government, we're not a business.
Yeah, and a lot of it's the rentals that, a lot of people rent out the pool on the weekends, that brings in a lot of money. And we don't set, that's a state law. I mean, it's not our revolving account law, it's a state law.
We're having Founder's Day, how are we paying for fireworks? You know, we shake down everybody for donations if we have money. It just seems,
Still a different count.
it just seems a little, I don't want to use the right word, but a little slippery, Mike.
How about a community rotating event?
Anything. Picnic.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes.
Mike, it's a revolving account, right? So what's brought in for the pool rentals is paying for the lifeguards, right? It's a revolving account.
Any other questions? And there's two proposals on the table, really. I don't know who wants to move what.
Well, as far as discussion, I mean, I think we should determine what we want to do before I make a motion with discussion. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chair, can we repeat option A and option B again, please?
Option A is to keep the position at 25 hours, correct, Mike?
Yeah.
And option B is to increase it to 30 hours at a approximately 5,000 and change increase.
It's about
6,300.
Yeah.
38,274, I think, was going to be for the additional 5 hours, plus the 21,590, if my math is right, 59,864. Look at that. That's that Catholic education would have cost.
Somebody check that, please.
I did.
Correct.
All those years of getting wrong as a fire chief, I finally got one right, Mike. All right, any discussion on either option before we move forward?
Mr. Chairman, I'd go for option B, give her the extra hours.
Is that a motion?
I think Bonnie wanted to do a motion, so
Well, I just want to make sure there's no more discussion before I made the motion, so it's up to you, obviously.
Mr. Chair?
Nope.
Mr.
We
Chair?
can discuss, go ahead, Steve.
Mike, I just want to confirm, you said willing to work those additional hours. Is that an option?
What's that?
What you said about the hours, you mentioned the person is willing to work those 30 hours. Is that an option?
Well, when we're talking about going to 30 hours, I just said to the person that we have there right now, is that something you'd be interested in? And they are.
But there's an option. If they choose not to work those hours, they don't have to.
It will, well, yeah, it's
It's interesting
budgeted
to
for
me.
30 if they don't need.
Okay.
It's a lot of one-day liquor licenses.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
have we asked her, Mike, if she wants the hours?
I did,
And her answer was?
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Vice Chair, yeah, to my memory, when Melissa met with us, this was her department request for the 30 hours.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if she's turned her department into a profit center, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't give the department their request.
Yeah.
Having been in the position myself, many years ago, I can tell you that she probably works more than 40 hours now.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
going to 30 hours, does that mean she's eligible for benefits now?
It's after
30
20.
was it?
It's after 20 hours you get the benefits, right?
It was 18.
After 18.
Thank you.
Any other comments before we move into a motion? Bill, anything? You awake?
Yeah, I'm awake.
Poor Bill. Bill can hardly hear too. He's like, what happened with COA? I had to text him back. All right, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to make a motion for Recreation 630 and Personnel Services $38,274 for 30 hours each week. Charges and expenditures, $21,590 for a total of $59,864.
Motion's been made, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Gavin?
Yes.
Sandy?
I'm recusing myself.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Brandon? Paula?
I'm kidding to see us, you know?
Paula?
Yes.
Yes.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
I just find it interesting how much time we spent on Council of Aging and adamant we weren't going to increase any positions, but here we go. But I'm a yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That would be a 10 and 1 abstention. One recused.
All right, thank you. See, it's hard to see down there, isn't it?
It is, especially leaning back in these chairs.
We're moving different ways and then you miss somebody. All right.
You can walk them from the side, so they don't do that.
Is that last one? All right. Yeah, we have more articles. The report to the finance committee to Finance Committee town meeting. My understanding is that's the vice chair's lovely responsibility. Is that correct?
Oh, no, what?
Well, I'm happy to help you with that.
Sitting right up there with you.
All right, anything, was there anything else on there about that, Mike? You just wanted to let me do it? Okay, all right. That's all about that then. Okay. All right. Anything else?
Any minutes or anything?
No, so the next meeting, I figured, I wasn't sure how long this was gonna go, so I'll send the minutes out before, because I think you gave me a couple, Mike. Did you give me more than one or just one? Minutes, you give me,
I gave you quite a,
Okay,
the
okay.
last group I sent you,
Okay.
it's like 5.
okay, so I'll go through those and send them out.
I haven't reviewed those either. I
Okay.
just sent them right to you.
All right, perfect.
Madam
All
Chair.
right, and we just so you know, we had a meeting Wednesday, we can cancel that, correct? We don't need any.
This Wednesday?
Yeah, well, I was asked just in case if we wanted to put something on the calendar, in case tonight didn't go so well. So I think we're in good shape and we can cancel that meeting, right?
Madam Chair, when is the next meeting that you referred to that we would be reviewing minutes?
Are we meeting next Monday or do we?
Is that the only thing we'd have on the agenda, is just minutes?
I can't make it next Monday. I wasn't aware we'd have a meeting next Monday because
Do
it'd
we
be
do
too
we
late.
usually not? Do we meet before town meeting? We just don't meet?
Well, everything's,
Okay.
Unless we want to reconsider something. Or if something new arises that we have to revote on something.
Okay.
we do typically meet in July though,
Right.
once, so.
Okay. Mike, did you have anything
Not
else for the
much
next
today.
meeting, for next week? No? Did anybody else have anything they wanted to discuss next meeting, next week?
Mike, Madam Chair, just a question. Normally, we have voted as a committee on the report of the Finance Committee. In the last few years, it seems to have been taken as a one-off.
Okay.
So I just want to really level set. Is it the committee's memo or is it one person's memo that we all take a look at? So just more curiosity on that. I'd like to get back to traditions.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mike, do you want
If you want, if the committee want to review, you could just do a quick Zoom meeting.
to? Okay.
You can set that up to review.
All right. Do you want to do that, Steve? Do we want to do a Zoom meeting next week
I'm
then?
fine just as long as we get a chance to review it. Last few years we have not.
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
I just want to make sure the committee has a chance to review what's
Okay.
being written. Last few years, we have not been able to.
Do you want to vote on it or just be able to review and give input on it?
I think we vote.
Okay, you want to vote on it? Okay.
Oh, but Madam Chair, when is it due though? Because I feel like in the past couple of years, we've gotten it done like right when it was like due to be printed in the warrant. So I don't think we weren't meeting, so there wasn't time for us to all review it before it needed to be submitted.
Yeah, as long as we have it 10 days before the town meeting.
Well, we wouldn't be meeting again then, because
That's in like 4 days.
unless you get it done and we meet Wednesday to review it.
This Wednesday?
It seems like that would be the only option for us to review it before it would be
Oh,
finally
I see.
submitted into the
You're saying
warrant.
it's due before next Monday? Correct, okay.
Well, can it be done before Wednesday?
Can it be done before Wednesday would be the first question, because if it can't, then we would be gathering for nothing, Madam Chair.
What is everybody? thoughts?
No pressure.
I'll help you, That's
Sorry,
the
Paul.
invite, right?
Invite Steve over.
Is that?
Sorry,
Steve
Paul.
will do it for you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I don't know the procedure for this, but there's a resident in the audience that has some numbers. I was wondering if they could come up, or it's regarding the MBTA overlay. So I don't know if I have to make a motion for something, or if they can come up and speak. Part of my ignorance.
Okay. I mean, is the, we have already voted on this, on the MBTA. Is it to ask us to reconsider that vote? Right, you can come up.
All right. Do we know what article number that is?
17.
I'm sorry? Peter?
17.
17?
17, yep.
Mark Sweeney,
The
14.
young man is correct.
Mark Sweeney, 14 Laurel Lane. I was hoping that the Finance Committee would take one more look at Article 17, Peter?
Yep, Article
The
17.
MBTA overlay, rezoning overlay article. We voted, what, 7-3 last time? I was hoping that you'd take one more look at that. I think that we're finding that there's going to be a lot of no on that coming up on May 19th, 17th. So that means it's going to go down right now as it is. And that means no grants. We're going to lose millions. So I'm hoping that you'll reconsider the article, and then hopefully we can go with a motion on the floor to go back with Red Mill Village, because then there'll be no work done later on, or no property taking later on, and then we can still qualify for the grants. Because right now, as it stands, you're not going to get it. So I'm thinking that we can try to avoid that. We're going to be in a big boat, a big mess, in a bad boat come the next day. So I'm asking this board, again, your weight is everything. They're going to go with what you say, among other things, but it's just one more helping setting stone or helping stone to make sure that we get the grants. By voting no, or voting what was proposed and approving that 7-3, that's going to go down in flames that night. So I'm hoping you'll reconsider that.
So Mark, you're asking for the Finance Committee to make an amendment to the article itself?
No,
You're asking us to vote it down?
vote it down.
And then
And then
with what end goal?
end goal is to put an amendment at the town meeting for that article, to bring it back to Red Mill Village, which was a second option, I guess you want to say, that did lose with the planning board, but we're going to bring it up one more time.
So I don't think there's anything stopping anybody from making an amendment whether we do whatever way we vote. I mean, I imagine there are people that are going to do that either way. So I don't know what revoting for us would do.
Just that your power.
They give us a lot of credit.
A lot of people come in.
I don't think on this issue, Mark, I think people are pretty.
A lot of people will come. A lot of people do sit there and just basically say, all right, what did the Finance Committee say? You do swing a lot of weight. If they don't know, they're going to go with what was said already by the Finance Committee.
Okay. So, all right, thanks, Mark. Does anybody want to reconsider the vote? Does anybody change their mind? I would hate to reconsider if no one's changed their mind.
I make a motion to reconsider.
You can make a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion, a second to reconsider. We'll go through. Paul?
Yes.
Gavin?
No.
Bonnie?
No.
Paula?
No.
Trace?
No.
Brandon?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Who's Bill?
No, I think he's still on there.
Bill's here.
Bill, you still there?
Bill, you still there?
I'm still there and a no.
Okay. And I am a no as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 no. So the motion to reconsider fails. So again,
What was the vote again?
6, 5. 5, 6. Right?
Madam Chair,
Good.
can I say something?
Yes.
I would just like to say, if folks are afraid of this terrible outcome and it not passing at town meeting, I recommend you hop on Facebook and you educate your neighbors about why this isn't such a bad idea. Thank you. Because everyone's so afraid. Keep talking. That's like the new thing around town. Oh no, we're going to lose our grants and it's finance committee's fault. And that's an absurd reading of the situation, frankly.
I don't think we're gonna take any more votes. So
No, I just wanted to add,
you want to come up to the mic?
yeah. Just for informational purposes, Jim Shabbat.
So you need to identify yourself.
What's that?
Please give your name, please.
Jim Shabbat, 56 Mansfield Ave. The grant thing is actually not as simple as it looks. We're going to lose the ability to get some fairly minor grants. One of them is major, MassWorks is major. That's $3.5 million that basically nobody wants to take, which makes it minor. The issue, and I did, just for fun, bring papers. Paul likes papers.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
There was
And-
a vote not to reconsider, so why are we
There's
not
just information.
talking about this?
Just information for Gavin's point.
Take one
So-
and pass them down.
Those are minor. The major grant is the school reimbursement. And if you cause danger to the budget, which I just redid the projections I did last year, which the planning board did improve it quite a bit. We're only short $1 million instead of 2.5. So they've improved it. But if $1 million puts Chapter 70 funds at risk, you've robbed, no, you've paid Paul and Peter ain't paying you. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
All right, I have a
Second.
motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, and
And Bill?
Robert again.
All right, we are adjourned, thank you.
Wait.